Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. Today, we will celebrate Financial Literacy Month with a special live edition of Mortgage 101. And we can't do that show without our first guest, who will be joining me for the first hour here. That, of course, is our good friend, mortgage guru, and all-around nice guy. I don't know about the third part, but anyway, that's Clinton Wilkins, of course.
The third part might be a bit of a lie. We're not sure. But that's okay. And you know what? We've had such a magical year this year, Dan. You know, really a really great season. And there's no better way to wrap up Mortgage 101 for 2025 than with Financial Literacy Month. We had our show that was on the first weekend of the month, kind of kicking it off. And we've been talking about income, assets, and credit all month long. And it's really great to have a live show and be back, you know, during the week, because I'm sure there's some listeners who don't hear us on the weekend. So it's great to be on here with you on a Thursday morning.
Now, before we start, a couple of housekeeping items, Clinton. One, we mentioned this is a very special edition of the program, and that's because A, you're here and we're doing it live, but B, my studio's full of cameras today. And
we are very, very live.
Yeah, we are very, very live. We're streaming. We're doing a live stream, which I don't think, well, I know I've not done before. Mm-hmm. So you can catch that on Clinton's Facebook page if you want to follow along with us and see what we really look like.
Yeah, it's on Clinton Wilkins' mortgage team. It's on our business Facebook. You can watch us live. You can see the full hour. And we have an hour full of guests, and it's going to be really, really great. We're going to talk about home ownership. We're going to talk about mortgage lending and real estate and what's going on here in Halifax.
Very quickly, before we get into all that stuff, Clinton, I wanted to send a shout out and send all of our positive energy down to Scotia Bank Center and to Team Black. Christina and her Nova Scotia team have qualified for the playoffs at the trials. There's just three teams left. It's Team Black along with Team Einerson and Team Holman. Reading some of the pundits this morning, I shouldn't have done that, but I did. Saying they're not given much of a chance because of Einerson's and Holman's success against them in the past. To that, I say, bah, come on.
Bah humbug.
Bah humbug. They have the hometown Blue Noser spirit behind them, which is like having an extra person on the sheet. Mm-hmm. That energy counts, folks. This tournament is had a history of ups and downs. If you remember 20 years ago when it was here, that's where Brad Gushu rose to fame, nobody knew he was until that point. So go Christina, Jill, Jen, Carly, Marley, and Coach Stewart. All of the Todd Veinotte Show fandom are behind you.
And our listeners, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Clinton, this is Financial Literacy Month, and we have celebrated this in the past. Mm-hmm. And I know you find that this is an important month to not only get out there and tell people about the real estate market and why they should be in it and the way to get into it, but also to give them a little bit of education of how they can get themselves into better financial shape as we head into 2026.
Well, it's a 15-year anniversary of Financial Literacy Month, and it's put on by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. You know, overall financial literacy of Canadians, Dan, the education level is very, very low, and that's why I think our show that we do here, Mortgage 101, is so important. I think we're breaking down some of the barriers. You know, we've talked that, you know, we've encouraged people to have conversations about their income, their assets, and their credit at the dinner table, and I hope that happens again tonight. You know, November is a month where we're really leading up to the holidays, and the holidays can be a very daunting time for folks, especially financially. You know, there's a lot of strains, and there's a lot of strains right now when we're looking at what's going on in the economy. You know, really, truly, I think we're in a recession, and inflation is still high. We're still battling that. And, you know, the amount of costs of consumer goods has increased faster than people's income. So I think people are definitely squeezed this year. How can they put themselves in the best possible financial position between now and the end of the year? And how can they start the year right in 2026?
Education's an important component, right? Because, you know, when you're sitting around and you're having those difficult conversations around the supper table and you're coming together with where you are in a financial state, there's a significant portion of the population out there, I think, that really don't even know where to start to look at what and how healthy they are or unhealthy they are financially.
It can be so daunting. You know, really, and we break it down in very small little bite-sized pieces, I think, Dan. You know, when we're talking about credit, let's do a deep dive about credit. You know, we talk about Equifax, we talk about TransUnion, we talk about how can people improve their credit and how can they maintain their credit. And that's just one small piece. Sometimes people think that's the only thing. Well, there's a lot of other things that are involved in financial literacy, income and assets. And it can be daunting when you're looking at that big picture, but I think you need to break it down in little bite-sized pieces and, look and research and learn and improve, small steps at a time.
When we did our show earlier this month, Clinton, we shared a lot of really valuable information. And if you haven't heard that one, you can go back onto our side to your side, and you can pick that off, and you can listen to that at your leisure. But what I got out of it was that for some, and I'm going to put myself in this category, particularly when it comes to credit and debt, of course, it was that bill at the end of the month was really all I paid attention to, right? But in order to get your financial house in order and to start 2026 on the right foot, you have to be active in your own finances, right? You can't just buy it and forget it.
No, and as much as you seek the advice of specifically for us, if you seek the advice of an unbiased mortgage professional, that's one piece of the pie. You have to be an active player in your own situation, and I think sometimes people forget that. One of the big things that I advocate for is make it automatic. Bill payments, make it automatic. Your minimum credit card or minimum payment on your credit card, make it automatic. When your savings, make it automatic and have that come out when your payroll comes out. Everyone has great intentions of paying things on time, saving and investing. But really, the people that are doing it are the ones that are getting it set up that it happens automatically because, it's just human nature. Things come up, people forget, and everyone's busy these days. I see so many folks in my office that have had previous credit challenges. And sometimes it's as silly as they're missing a $10 minimum payment on a credit card. Really, today, there's no need of it. Majority of credit card companies, for example, offer an automatic payment. So get it set up, set it and forget it. And, credit products like a credit card, I think you need to also learn and get a handle on it that it's meant for short term. Really, we don't want consumers carrying a balance on a credit card. Lots of us do. But when we're trying to get our financial house in order, it's about tackling some of this highest interest debt first.
And we also had a discussion earlier this month, and I thought that was valuable as well, that when it comes to income sources that you have and just trying to figure out what your monthly income is, it's not just the paycheck that is your income source. There's a number of things that people may overlook when it comes to that calculation.
Oh my goodness, there's so many other things that we take into consideration, specifically when we're looking at qualifying someone for a mortgage. Things like child tax benefit, or maybe someone's gone through a separation and they have child support or spousal support. We take those things into consideration. Pensions, CPP, OAS, other pensions that people may have. And a lot of consumers, more and more, Dan, every single day are becoming self-employed. And that can be very, very daunting because a lot of self-employed people, they've walked into their bank branch and they've been declined because maybe they're newly self-employed, or maybe, their income isn't high enough to qualify for what they want, or maybe they don't have their income tax filed on time, God forsake. But we deal with a lot of self-employed borrowers, and there's almost more programs available for self-employed and different ways to make it happen than there is for someone that just has a pay stub. So we're really excited about dealing with self-employed borrowers, and more Canadians are becoming self-employed all the time. Like, for example, this week we saw a customer that worked for a plumbing company the last 10 years and recently, just this year, became self-employed. Normally, back in the old days, they'd have to be self-employed for 2 years, get 2 full years of tax returns before we'd even look at that customer for a prime lending type product. But we were able to get that approved with a bank lender, prime mortgage. We were able to justify their income and show their previous history in terms of qualifying them today. So certainly there is definitely a bigger appetite to help self-employed people. And I think there's a lot of different programs out there that, we can certainly, take advantage of to help.
We've got some really, really special guests that are going to join us on the program today, are going to give us a perspective of things not only here in HRM but across the country. But Clinton, you're in it. You're doing it every day. How's the market? And we've read stories. I've seen stories about the market slowing down across the rest of the country. What's happening in HRM, and what can we expect in, say, the first quarter of 26?
I would say we're not in a bubble, Dan. I think our market in Atlantic Canada is very similar to the same type of story that they're seeing in the prairies. It is very stable. The one thing I will say that's going on in Halifax is we have a lot more listings than we did here a year ago, and things are sitting on the market for a longer period of time. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the market here is more balanced, but we still have seen price growth. Even though we're seeing property sit for a longer period of time, we're seeing that price still increase. So it's still a good investment, and I think that there's more opportunities for buyers to get into the marketplace. And later in the show, we'll talk, about first-time home buyers and if 2026 is going to be the right time for some of these people to enter that real estate market. For me, the best time to buy a home is yesterday. Really, when we're looking at the consumers that purchased homes even 5 years ago, Dan, many of them, their homes have doubled in value. So, I think that's going to continue to be the trend. I don't know if their prices are necessarily going to increase that quickly, but I'm very comfortable to say that we're going to see these prices increase between 3% and 5%. And I think that's normal, and I think that's definitely going to be more balanced.
Clinton, on this program for many weeks now, we've been talking about property tax, and we've been talking about
hot topic.
Oh my goodness, and City Council looking at a 10.5% increase in property tax. We know there's some significant increases coming in electricity rates. We know there's a 36% increase in water rates. Is that keeping people out, do you think? Are they waiting to see what happens with that, or is the with all the listings that you're telling us about, are people saying nope, good time to get out, or good time to buy?
I really don't think it's going to have a huge impact, to be honest. I think our property taxes were probably on the lower side for a long time. Everything has gone up in cost, Dan. The one thing I will say, based on the property taxes going up 10%, if that's the actual tax rate, obviously HRM is taking advantage of the assessments going up as well. But there's a lot of people that still have a cap on. So I think it's going to hopefully rebalance what's going on in the tax scheme. By and large, our taxes are around 1% of our assessment value. There's certainly a lot of municipalities out there in Nova Scotia that have taxes that are, 150% higher than what we're paying in Halifax. Yes, our taxes are high, but we are very services rich. I think, and I hope that HRM will balance out the increase. They've certainly had some of the disadvantage of the assessments going up. But I think the real thing that HRM needs to focus on, Dan, is getting some construction starts going. We need to increase the tax base, maybe more so than focusing on increasing the taxes for the individual homeowners that already own a home. We have a 20-year hangover of not doing construction here in Halifax. Yes, we have a lot of cranes in the sky, but that should have been years ago, us getting this amount of construction going. People that are renting, they are very squeezed. We have some of the highest rents compared to income in the country. We need these units to come online to help soften that rental market. And as me saying as a mortgage broker and someone who really wants to promote people buying homes, we need rentals just as much so we can free up some of this lower cost real estate. Think about the little old lady and the little old man that are not going into an apartment because they can't afford it or there weren't any apartments for them to have. It has prevented first-time home buyers from getting into the market. So it's really hurting all verticals of real estate, but we need all types of construction. We need single families, we need rows, we need multifamilies, we need all sizes and types of real estate construction going on in Halifax, and that's what I want to see HRM promoting so we get a higher tax base.
This is a very special edition of Mortgage 101. We're live here today for the next 45 minutes or so. As we mentioned, we've got a real list of really good guests that are going to come in and impart their knowledge upon us. We're going to continue to do that. Also, Clinton tells me that he brought something along with him that he's going to give away at the end of the show.
We are. I'm going to give it a little teaser here before we throw it a commercial. We are going to be giving away two VIP tickets to Crave. That's happening here in January. It is an event that's put on by the Progress Club here in Halifax. The actual event is January 24th, and these VIP tickets are going on sale today at noon, but we're going to have a lucky listener. We're going to give away two tickets. So we'll open up the phone lines at the end of the show and give away two tickets.
Beat the box office, right?
Beat the box office. You'll be the first person to get two tickets in your hot little hand for Crave in January. And we are a sponsor of the event. We're very proud to be able to sponsor it. The Progress Club does amazing work here around Halifax. And we have members of our team that are partners and on Progress Club. So we'd love to support them.
We're going to take our first break here on the live edition of Mortgage 101. When we come back, very pleased and had an opportunity to speak with him, and I know he's looking forward to this. The Chief Operating Officer for Sagan is Jim Spitali, and he will be joining us here in the studio with Clinton and I. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show, a special Mortgage 101 edition. We're back after the break. All right, welcome back. A very special edition of Mortgage 101 as we celebrate Financial Literacy Month, and we're hoping that we are going to be able to teach you a little bit about the markets. I know that that some of you out there are saying, "Oh, geez, it's a tough place to be these days with the way things cost." But we're hopefully gonna to give you some knowledge so that you can take a look at your finances, and maybe it isn't that far out of your reach as we move forward. As I mentioned before the break, we've got a real long list today of special guests that will join us. In addition, of course, to Clinton Wilkins, who is the host of Mortgage 101, and the very first one off the top, and I'm so happy that he's able to join us today, is the Chief Operating Officer for Sagen, and that's Jim Spitali. Jim, how are you?
Good morning. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with yourself, Dan, and a mortgage guru and all-around nice guy in Clinton over here.
Thanks, Jim.
You're making him embarrassed.
We're so happy you could join us. I think just having someone, from the national scope to be able to join us on our show is really amazing. And Sagen's been such a great partner of mine over the last 20 years. And we're helping customers every day getting high ratio insured mortgages. And there's been a lot of changes in the space. And so many customers ask me, is now the right time to buy?
Yeah.
Right.
And, I said before we went to break, I think the right time to buy is yesterday.
Right.
But, I think people in their mind sometimes think and say that, we need to have 20% down to get into the market. And, there's maybe a stigma from getting a high ratio insured mortgage. But, obviously, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Maybe we could start, Jim, by you can explain what Sagen is and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Sagen is Canada's largest mortgage insurer, so default mortgage insurer. And what Sagen provides is it provides first-time home buyers or any borrower in Canada that has less than 20% down payment. And it allows them to access a mortgage a lot sooner than having to save that full 20%. And when you take a look at what home prices have done in Canada, say in the last 10, even 15 years, continuously seeing increases. And that 20% becomes daunting for many, many Canadians. And if you look at like newer generations of first-time home buyers, like millennials specifically, myself being one of them, I mean, you grow up with your parents who were baby boomers telling you to avoid that mortgage default premium, that MI premium as we refer to it. Yet, when they were saving for a home, 20% was maybe $20,000, not even back then. But today, it's almost impossible.
Well,
you
especially
could be waiting until your 50s.
Well, in Halifax, our average house price is somewhere almost like $600,000.
Right.
So like 20% down is $120,000. That is very prohibitive for people.
Absolutely. And Clinton, you're absolutely accurate when you say like the best time to buy is yesterday. I mean, you look at what some people are paying in rents today, and that could be going into equity and building future equity when for a potential future purchase. But even if you look at how the wealth has been built in Canada over the last 20 years, a lot of it comes from the value of your home.
From real estate. And it's the biggest asset in many households. And obviously the mortgage is the biggest debt. But I think the biggest challenge that first-time home buyers have right now, guys, is just getting into the market.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's where Sagen can help. We allow borrowers to enter the market with as little as 5% down payment, and we partner with mortgage professionals like Clinton, but also a number of lenders across Canada, in making that dream of home ownership really come to fruition.
Jim, I hear it a lot. And I hear it from colleagues. I hear it from listeners. I hear it from people that I'm in the grocery store with.
Sure.
That the dream of home ownership in Canada is fading. Why is 2026, with all of the pressures that we know that are coming, some of the things that Clinton and I talked about with taxes and with utility increases, why would 2026 be the year to consider using a product that you offer to get into that market?
Yeah, Dan, that's a really great question, and really the answer is when you look at everything that's happening in the Canadian housing space, and even Halifax, right? You have a federal government now that is really laser focused on home ownership and affordable home ownership, and a number of different changes are being put in place today to allow for that to happen more quickly. You look at the 30-year amortization that was introduced in late 2024. Prior to that introduction by the the federal government. Canadians, if they had less than 20% down payment, they can only use a 25-year amortization. Now we're allowed to go up to 30 years, which allows Canadians to have a lower mortgage payment. In many cases, a lot lower than what they're paying in rent today. And that is helping, Canadians get into homes sooner as well. You're also seeing interest rates have really nicely come down. Some home prices, maybe not so much in Halifax, but across Canada, we've seen some home price softness as well. So you couple in what the federal government's doing, you look at the 30-year AM, you look at where interest rates are today, 2026 is actually a really, really compelling year to enter the market.
Well, and there's more real estate. There's more listings here, which I think is amazing. One thing that I was curious about, Jim, is when the 30-year amortization was introduced again for high ratio insured mortgages, and it's for any first-time home buyer or anyone buying a new construction property, what percentage of applications that you're seeing would not have qualified if they didn't have the 30-year AM?
Yeah, so that number is actually just around 52%. 50
Wow.
to 52% is what
That's staggering.
It really is, and it really shows you how that enhancement has impacted, in a positive way, a number of first-time home buyers. But we're also seeing on the flip side of that, you look at the inverse of that statistic, you're actually seeing a number of Canadians who are even taking that 30-year amortization, even if they did qualify under the 25-year.
Right.
And the reason for that is some of the things that you gentlemen were talking
Like
about.
cash flow management.
Cash flow management, rising costs on taxes, utilities, closing costs. They're factoring that into their decision, as they enter that dream of home ownership, because when they make the leap to take on that first time purchase, they want to make sure they can stay there. Right.
And I think there's a misconception out there that you can't get a high ratio insured mortgage if you've already owned a home, which is incorrect.
That is not true. Yeah, no, you absolutely can't. Although the majority of the business we do today is first-time home buyers, but it's really only around 70%. 30% are also repeat buyers.
Okay,
right,
interesting.
who are re-entering the market as well, or looking at increasing the size of their home with a growing family.
I mean, this may be an obvious question, but what is the definition of a first-time home buyer? Is it somebody that's never owned property before, or is it somebody that's had property but's been out of the market for a while?
Yeah, that's a question we get all the time, right. Dan, and it really when we look at it from a Sagen perspective, it's truly someone that's never owned a home before. But the true definition of a first-time home buyer can differ by lender. I mean, even our government puts stipulations on the definition of a first-time home buyer for the home buyers plan, et cetera, or the FHSA account, the first home savings account.
A tongue twister.
Yeah, it really is.
And we don't talk about the first home savings account enough, I don't think.
Really? Well, it is
it's
still
such a
fairly
great
new.
source, and it's such a great source for a down payment.
It's really going to have a positive impact, I think, in another 5 years when people can actually start building up some assets under that savings account. We don't see much, I would say, activity around that today. But the home buyers plan, where you can use an RSP to contribute towards a down payment, is something that we see a lot of today as well.
Well, we still have a couple minutes. I'm really curious to know, and we've thrown out a couple stats, and I don't know if they're accurate or not, but tell us about gifted down payments. And I'm sure the applications that you see, when I first started 20 years ago, a gift was, $5,000 or $20,000.
Yeah.
But I heard the average gift now in Canada is coming up on $100,000, if not more.
The proverbial bank of mom and dad, right?
Yeah. So when you look at that, and keep in mind, like Sagen's looking at, pretty much anything with a down payment less than 20%. So it's the numbers a lot smaller than that for us. But when you look at it across, all mortgage applications, I can see the number certainly being that high. But, we typically see it anywhere in the, the $40,000 to $50,000 range.
It's kind of more the average for a high ratio insured.
Exactly, which helps them, either get into like a 90 loan to value or even get to a 95 loan to value.
Right.
But, 100,000 would be quite high for us. Probably more so, I would say, in the Ontario GTA or Greater Vancouver markets.
Right, because someone can get a high ratio insured mortgage with a purchase price up to $1.5 million.
$1.5 million, and it just has to be below 1.5 or 1.49999 is what we say. But yes, absolutely, and that's another change the government made last year as well.
And that was at the same time the 30-year amortization was introduced. So I think that obviously has had some impacts here. I don't know if we're seeing that many above $1 million, but we're seeing some. But I think that with that 30-year amortization is certainly allowing a bigger percentage of people getting into the real estate market. Now, people can put 5% down on the first 500, and then it's 10% down
after that. That's correct.
Up to that 1.4999.
Yeah, and another thing I think first-time homebuyers sometimes are not aware of, and that's the benefit of working with a mortgage professional is that sometimes, oftentimes, when you go with an insured insured mortgage with Sagen's mortgage default insurance, you actually get a lower rate with a number of lenders, right? And I think a lot of first-time homebuyers don't realize that. Although there's this stigma to paying the premium, but a lot of the times that premium can be offset by the savings in the interest rate that they're going to have for the 5-year term, the 3-year term, or whatever the borrower chooses.
And there can be quite a difference in the interest rate between a high ratio insured mortgage and a conventional mortgage. Customers often think, well, I have more money down, I should get a lower rate. It's not the case, because lenders, when they have this high ratio insurance, they're really protected, so they can offer those customers that lowest interest rates.
Exactly. So that's another benefit for first-time homebuyers or even any Canadians that are using our products.
Jim, a pleasure. Lots of really great information there, and hopefully somebody out there is going to take a look at one of those 30-year amortizations, because it's got to save them a bunch of money, right?
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
That's Jim Spitali from Sagen. We're going to take a break for the news. Mortgage 101 is going to continue the special edition, a live edition of Mortgage 101 after the news. And when we come back, we spoke to our next guest last year, brought some really great information. So we're welcoming him back this year. The head of mortgage creditor insurance at Manulife, it's Mario Cluche, and he'll be joining us. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show, special Mortgage 101 edition with Clinton Wilkins. We're back after the news. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. This is a special edition of Mortgage 101. You can hear that monthly on our radio station, right? We do it with Clinton, who and has been doing it for several years. And if you're learning some stuff today, that's the goal of Financial Literacy Month, is to educate you as a consumer out there. You can go back into our catalog and you can look at or listen to some of the previous programs that Clinton's done with me or with Todd, and there's always some really great information in there. We do this live show once a year in November as part of Financial Literacy Month. And Clinton, last year we had our next guest in the studio, and he was so good we invited him back again this year. And that is, of course, the head of mortgage creditor insurance at Manulife. That's Mario Cluche. Mario, how are you?
Good morning. Good to see you both.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. I feel like I have to pay now some new respects to Clinton with all his new titles now.
Right.
Mortgage guru and everything. So I'm not sure if we're going to have to bow when
I
we
think
get
that was
into this
that was
stage.
Todd. Maybe we'll keep that going for a while. Maybe
we'll
we'll
see
keep that going into 2026.
We'll see what we can do.
Sounds good.
Mario, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what creditor insurance is.
Yes. So mortgage financing, as we all know, is the most important financial decisions of any consumer's life. So where we come in is basically when, after the customers have met with their mortgage brokers, decided and figured out what the best options was for them, is we make sure that they have a plan going forward to be protected for that most important financial decision. Life happens. 1 out of 3 Canadian consumers going to get a life event that's going to require for them to be off work for at least 9 months during their financial life. So what happens if? What if? And I think it's more today than ever. It's important to have the right plan for that. So mortgage protection actually comes in, and just in situation, God forbid, but in situation where you wouldn't be able to make the monthly payments, or if there was a debt in one of the spouses responsible for the mortgage, Manulife MPP would come in and take care of the mortgage during those difficult times. There's those life moments.
Well, and Canadians are just so underinsured. And Mary, you can probably speak more to the stats. Some people, they have the best intentions of getting a term policy or a whole life policy. But at least in our office, when we see consumers, we're really talking about 2 things. You need to protect your income, but you also need to protect the debt. Yes, you may have insurance that, okay, I have enough insurance to pay my mortgage. Well, if your mortgage is gone, also, if you were to die, your income's gone from the household as well. So that's something that we really talk to consumers about. So maybe, Mario, can you speak to a little bit about, what the, lack of coverage that Canadians have?
Yeah, for sure. There's a misperception, unfortunately, that all Canadians are covered through work and that. So the guidelines in Canada is that you're supposed to have 7 to 10 times your annual income in order to be able to maintain the lifestyle if something was to happen to you. Now, there's an organization like MPC, but for the insurance world, it's called CAFI. And they published an annual report, and in their 2023 annual report, they were saying that 83% of the Canadian consumers are not sufficiently insured. So they have some kind of coverage, but there's different type of coverage when we talk about protection for this. You can have a term life policy that's going to be, like Clinton was mentioning, there to maintain your lifestyle if there was something that happened to you maintain the lifetime of your family, that is. But then there's also liabilities that are associated with maintaining a property that needs to be taken care of. So it's absolutely a misperception that, I've got coverage at work. Most of the coverage we see at work, and some of the best ones are going to be 1 or 2 or 3 times the annual income, which obviously, and that it used to be times, 30, 40, 50 years ago where people would just stay in their job for their entire career.
People change their employers like they're changing their underwear these days. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. So the situation has changed, and you're not necessarily going to be captive of the work because you have to keep the coverage because you need this to maintain your lifestyle.
Right.
So you got to make sure that you got an option that's flexible and gives you the ability to be able to move around and financial freedom. I mean, I'm using terms from competitors, but it's all about financial freedom.
Mario, you mentioned 7-8 times your annual income. Do in your experience, do employer policies? I'm thinking about ours, and I don't think that we even have the option to get insured that much.
Yeah, I think the best solution for any consumers when they have some kind of coverage is to consult with a mortgage broker and a financial advisors. Financial advisors will do a needs analysis and assess how much coverage you have. I wouldn't dare to speculate on that. Most of what we see in the days, and that doesn't necessarily apply to every consumers, but it's probably going to be 2 to 3 times the annual income, which is still really generous.
Well, and I think it needs to be a multi-pronged approach. Yes, hopefully you do have some coverage through work. Hopefully you also have your debt coverage through a product like MPP that we offer. And I think on top of that, you do need to have some term or whole life insurance. You just don't need one, you need all.
Yeah.
And those are the consumers that really are protected and getting the best advice. They have a mortgage broker that's looking after their mortgage debt and the mortgage and that coverage. They also have a financial advisor that's making sure that they have the term and the whole life. And people are also opting in at work. Like, it's really a 3-pronged approach. I think those are the consumers that really are getting that best advice and having that best level of coverage.
You're absolutely right. In financial investment is a principle that you have to do a diversification of risk. So don't put all your eggs in the same basket. This principle is also applicable for insurance. And Clinton's absolutely right. And the mortgage brokers are the best person when it comes to transactional. So obviously talk about what happens to keep the lights up and the day-to-day, how much money is left in my pocket. So obviously go to mortgage brokers, but mortgage brokers often partner up with financial advisors to get a more holistic approach for that customer.
For sure. And I see customers in my office all the time that have whole life and term policies, and they also want the credit insurance because they are taking the advice that they want to have that level of coverage. And oftentimes people that also are getting advice elsewhere, they don't want to have all their eggs in one basket. And maybe their term or their whole life is coming up for renewal, and they want to make sure that mortgage is being covered and that there's no gap in that coverage.
It's really a big picture, right? Because I'm sitting here thinking in my mind, like if I'm able to put together enough money for my down payment at my 30-year amortization, the grocery store prices are expensive, taxes, all of those things included, it would be pretty easy for me to kind of skimp on the insurance, right? Because we got bills to pay.
Well, sometimes it's the first thing to go, but it's the most important thing. Like, I'm just going to give an example. So many times I see consumers, even in a refinance type scenario, we need every dollar of income for these customers to qualify. We need both incomes. If something happens to one of them from a disability standpoint, or if there is a death, they're ruined financially. Their only way out of their financial situation is to sell the home. But the last thing that you want to have to worry about if you are going on disability or if there was a death, the last thing you want to worry about is needing to change your housing situation, especially in this housing market. As you know, to be able to sell a home and to be able to get even into an apartment or buy a smaller home is very, very challenging.
And one thing to mention about creditor insurance as well is the coverage is going to follow you throughout the financial life. It's not something that has to be renewed every 2-3 years. I mean, earlier on in the show, you were talking about the fact that what's the best time to purchase a property, and it was yesterday. It's the same thing for insurance. As you get the insurance coverage younger, so first-time home buyer going to Sagents to get their mortgage insured and everything, and then they go in there, the coverage, because it's based on your age, obviously, is going to be much cheaper than if you get coverage later in life. So people tend to procrastinate and wait till they're 40, 50 and more financial independence. But really the best time to get coverage could be as low as a few dollars a week.
And that was my next question.
Yeah,
Is it really expensive? Like if somebody wanted, because when you're 25 or you're 30 and you're buying a house and you're not necessarily in that best financial situation, is it expensive to get those kind of insurance?
No, it's not. And so it's based on two things: is your age, number one, and your health condition. So it has nothing to do with your credit rating or anything else. It really is on your health, like any kind of insurance product. And in a market like Halifax, where the average mortgage size is maybe smaller than Toronto, Vancouver, it's even cheaper. So you're looking at a few dollars weekly, and then at top $100 a month.
Really is a product that you can't ignore. And, I'll just reiterate, so many Canadians are underinsured. Some people don't believe in insurance, but I get the calls. We have over 40,000 customers, and I get the calls when people, are going on disability, and I get the calls when people pass away. I like being the good news person.
Right.
And we are very insurance positive. About 40% of our customers are taking insurance. But it should be much more, because I get the calls and sometimes I have to tell people, well, you actually waived the insurance. And that's not a great conversation to have. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't have an extra $100 a month. Well, you can't afford not to spend the extra $100 a month, really.
Yeah.
You would never not have insurance on your car. Why don't you want to have insurance to protect your financial health?
Mario, as always, a pleasure, sir. I appreciate your time.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much.
That's Mario Cluche, the head of mortgage, creditor insurance, and Manulife. We're going to take another break here. Clinton's going to stick around as we go through this live edition of Mortgage 101. And when we come back, is he your boss?
I mean, we're independent contractors, but, he would be the head of our network.
Adrian Schultz is the president of Centura Financial Group, and he will be here.
Centum Financial
Centum,
Group.
sorry.
I'll interrupt
Can't read
you.
my writing.
That's all good.
And I don't have my glasses on. Anyways, he'll be here, and maybe we'll get some insight on Clinton.
I think we will.
You're listening to Todd Veinotte Show, special Mortgage 101 edition. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to this very special edition of Mortgage 101. In the studio, as always, is Mr. Clinton Wilkins. And joining us for the last little bit here, the president of Centum. I'll get it right, see?
That's right. Yeah, you got it right this time.
Financial Group. And we're very pleased to welcome him all the way from Winnipeg, as I understand it. And that's Adrian Schultz. Adrian, how are you?
Well, thanks for having me, Don.
Wow, there's the pipes right there,
and
right?
You know what? This is Adrian's first trip to Halifax.
Wow.
It is, and I hope to leave as a Haligonian.
Christ,
that's right.
How about you got to go? You're up to it. You're looking for the Haligonian experience, so there better be a donaire in there somewhere, right?
A donaire for sure.
Some fresh seafood.
Yeah, seafood.
Right. And
had my lobster cake yesterday.
See, there you go.
Maybe a trip to the Alexander Keys to the brewery market. To go maybe on a brewery tour.
For breakfast.
For breakfast.
I mean, and you can't not go to Pizza Corner, but maybe you can get the donaire at Pizza Corner.
Well, there you go. So Clinton will look after you. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your first trip to Halifax with us, Adrian. I guess the overarching question is you fellas do something that maybe people don't know exactly what it is that you do. Mm-hmm. When we think of getting a mortgage and we think about, going into making that step or taking that step into home ownership, we go to the bank, right? We immediately think, all right, I'm just going to go to my bank branch.
Yeah, like what is the value of a mortgage broker?
Right,
and why should someone come to a mortgage broker versus going into the bank?
Why come visit your folks to get their mortgage?
Yesterday we went to Clinton's Dartmouth office, and one of his brokers by the name of Mark shared a story with me. He came from decades at a chartered bank, and he said, he has a very unique opportunity now as a broker where in the past he had one product, one solution to offer his borrowers, his clients. And a lot of times he had to say no because that borrower didn't fit the mold of the bank or of a credit union. And the benefit that brokers have is they have a plethora of options of lenders and products that they are able to offer their clients. And once you do your application with a broker, that broker is able to assess the file and go, where do I best place this file for the benefit of the client, but also for the long-term health of the client. So it's a very different approach to debt planning and to home buying that a broker can help a borrower take.
And I think there's a big misconception that we don't deal with banks. But the bulk of the transactions that we do every day, I'm just going to say it right now, is with Scotiabank, TD, and Bank of Montreal. They're some of our best partners. Yes, we deal with 40 different lenders, and a lot of these lenders, you would not know their names. They're trust companies. Some of them are chartered banks, but they're not part of the big five. But you know what? We're dealing with Scotiabank, for example, literally every single day. And I think that's a misconception that consumers have when they go to a mortgage broker. Well, I'm not going to be able to get a bank mortgage. Well, we deal with them every single day. And we would not be in business if we didn't have these partners.
Right. Adrian, this has been the overarching question that we've been asking for this entire hour here is 2026. We know that there's all kinds of financial pressures out there for people and an affordability crisis and all of the other things that we talk about here on this program, and I would imagine across the country almost on a daily basis. Why would you suggest that 2026 is the right time for somebody to come visit one of your brokers and get into the real estate market?
Well, first of all, I think that nationally, home prices are stabilizing. Of course, some of the major markets like Vancouver and Toronto have seen some, I call it stabilization in pricing. I know others will obviously say reduction in pricing. But you mentioned I'm from Winnipeg. Our company is actually Vancouver-based, right. And we have brokers all across the country, coast to coast. But the prairies are very much like Halifax. We're actually experiencing fairly stable markets, decent supply or sufficient supply. Whenever we say that there's a shortage of supply, it's a specific type of shortage, right? Mm-hmm. It's that first-time home buyer home that's difficult.
Like for us, it's a sub 600,000. Like that is the hottest real estate that is super, super active. Sometimes multiple offers on that sub 600,000. But the ones that we're seeing that are sitting are that like 700,000-800,000 plus.
Yeah, but we're in the prairies, and here they're stable, and I think there's overall optimism that things will improve. Supply issues are being slowly addressed by government. I mean, it's the top priority right now, and municipal governments as well are taking the necessary actions across the country to address the supply issues. The challenge also is still rental housing, right? Because you've got a lot of upward pressure in rents because, again, of supply issues.
For sure. And, for me, I think one of the big things, and we experienced this in 2020, the demand was just so high here, and we haven't been able to keep up with supply. But now there's more supply, and there certainly is still the demand. I think a lot of people are still on the sidelines, though. I think some consumers are sitting on the fence, one, because they think the price is going to go down, or two, they think the interest rates are going to continue to soften. One thing that we said in one of the previous segments was the best time to buy is yesterday. What are your predictions for 2026? I can tell you in our business, we were up about 40% this year, which is pretty amazing for a business that's been around for 20 years. I don't expect to be up 40% next year. But what are the trends and what are you hearing from across the country?
Well, first of all, this is a record year for the Centum Mortgage Network across the country. So it's been our biggest year to date in a near 25-year history.
Wow.
I expect that positive trend to continue because things are just, getting better again. But I want to speak a moment about just consumer anxiety, right? Those people that are on the fence on should I be buying, can I be buying? I think a great first step, and there's no cost to this step, is actually speaking to a mortgage broker, a mortgage professional, and having your own personal situation assessed to see what is possible. And we have a lot more possible than just going straight to a bank. And like Clinton said, at the end, you're probably still going to end up with a bank mortgage, but it will be specific to your need and to your situation. So if you're anxious about buying a home and you don't know what to do next, start with a mortgage broker.
And everybody's situation is different. And we'll bring it back to Financial Literacy Month. We look at people's income, we look at their assets, and we look at their credit. And every single file is different. It's almost like a snowflake. We're going into the winter and the holiday season. every file is like a snowflake, and we want to put together that best plan to make sure that we're putting the consumer in the best possible product for their needs.
And education is so important, right? Because I can think of people sitting in a restaurant or maybe at an establishment that you're going to go visit later on Argyle Street and enjoy some of Halifax's hospitality on the back of a cocktail napkin, trying to figure out, okay, this is how much I think I make, this is what I think I need to do, this is what I think I need to do, but there's a bunch of different things that factor into that.
You know, real estate is local, and I would say buying a home and getting a mortgage should be personal. And that means working with an individual rather than just online calculator. I think there's a lot of value in having a face-to-face conversation or a scheduled call to go over your unique situation. There are things that people like Clinton and his team and mortgage brokers, professionals as a whole can do that no random internet tool will ever be able to do.
And it's the same thing with people at the branch level. This is why I have a job, and I think this is why our volume is up 40% this year. As you know, Dan, massive turnover in retail banking. It is a very tough place. It's not a place that I would want to be. We are in it for the long run. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'll be doing it probably for another 20 years. You can have a relationship with someone, and it's not just about the basis points. It's not just about getting that lowest rate, because us giving the advice is more valuable in helping consumers to pay down their mortgage debt faster. It's not just that rate. We're really in that advice business.
Clinton, we're just about out of time. You will, of course, have brought us a gift to give away.
I certainly have. Yeah, let's give away the gift. We're going to open up the phone lines. I don't know what magic number of the caller. I'll let you pick this, Dan. But we're going to be giving away 2 tickets to Crave. It is in January. There are going to be 2 VIP tickets. We're going to give it away to 1 lucky winner. We are the diamond sponsor for Crave, and it's put on by the Progress Club. It's on January 24th. And we're going to be there. And the tickets are actually going on sale today on the Progress Club website at noon, the VIP tickets. And then the regular tickets are going to be going on this day next week. So
it's a fantastic event, and you're beating the box office. You get a shot at one of those VIP tickets first, and it's free. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Caller number, 7.
Number 7 sounds great.
Perfect. Adrian, thank you very much for joining us today. A pleasure to meet you, and I hope you enjoy your time here in Halifax.
Thank you for having me down.
And Clinton, pal, it's been a fun year.
It was a great season. And you know what? Mortgage 101, for me, it's really such an important part of my month. And, I think just bringing it back to November, financial literacy is just so important. This show is really about education. It's the 15-year anniversary of Financial Literacy Month, and we're glad that we're able to be here on the airwaves and share as much information as knowledge as we can with our consumers.
We're going to package this show all up and put it on our website like we do with all Mortgage 101s. Clinton's got the live stream here on his site, and you'll be able to find more information on it from him on his site. Thank you both, gentlemen. That's going to do it for this live edition of Mortgage 101, but the show continues. We're going to stop down. We're going to take a break for the news, and when we come back, we're going to open up the telephone lines for our second to last open hour of the week. I know Clinton loves this part of the show. He listens to it just about every day.
Sometimes I just get on and I'm like, Dan, shut this one down.
And we're looking forward to having a conversation with you. Some bad publicity for Peggy's Cove. I'll tell you about it when we come back. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. That was fun and interesting. We had that's my first experience live streaming. I don't know if Todd's done it before. I don't think if he has, he certainly hasn't done it with all of these cameras and stuff kicking around in the studio. But if you want to check that out, Clinton Wilkins Mortgage Team Facebook page is where that's at, and we will package up the show here. And put it back onto the website like we do with Mortgage 101 if you want to go back and listen to some of that. Hope there was some good information in there for you as Financial Literacy Month draws to a close. Back to the regular schedule now. It is time for the open hour. Normal rules apply. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255 is the number. If you have something you want to talk about, something you want to share, a perfect opportunity to do so. That's the beauty of open hours. We get to lead the conversation. A couple of things that came across my desk in preparation for today's program I thought I would share with you in case you haven't seen them. And I'm interested in soliciting some of your comments on it. A story that appeared today in the Chronicle Herald caught my attention. And I'm going to read the first couple of lines for it just to give you a little bit of context on the story. It reads this: Nova Scotians love to send tourists to Peggy's Cove. But on a new list on MSN.com, it says the Oceanside site is one of the, quote, top overrated Canadian tourist attractions travelers wished they'd skipped. Now, the story goes on to read, the dissing of the tourist spot has nothing to do with the black rocks that sometimes see people swept into the ocean when they ignore warning signs, but more to do with those who fill the site at a safe distance. The Post said, and I quote, this picturesque fishing village in Nova Scotia appears on countless postcards and travel guides, drawing massive crowds during the summer months. The tiny community becomes so overcrowded that visitors struggle to move freely or take photos without strangers in every frame. Tour buses arrive in waves, turning a peaceful coastal scene into a chaotic tourist trap. Has Peggy's Cove become a victim of its own success? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I can only speak for myself, and I like to go down to Peggy's Cove on the odd occasion. I like to go down there, and particularly when the waves are crashing, and of course I stay off the black rocks, as everybody should. But I will not go there during the summer or particularly in the early fall when the cruise ship season is at full capacity. Because the Post is correct. It's overrun with people. All it takes is for one to venture down to the port, to the waterfront here in Halifax when a cruise ship comes in and watch the lineup of buses and taxi cabs that take people, for the most part, to Peggy's Cove to get that photograph of the iconic lighthouse, maybe have a snack or a bite to eat at the restaurant, and then get on the bus and drive all the way back here and get back on the cruise ship, and then they can say they've had their Halifax experience. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If that's what somebody wants to pay that money for, then more power to them. But there's certainly a lot more to Halifax and Nova Scotia than just a trip to Peggy's Cove. I'm interested in hearing from people that live down that way. We know it's a skinny road that goes all the way down to Peggy's Cove, doesn't it? And I can't imagine what it's like when you're driving along to go down there in the summertime with all those buses and tourists that are in motorhomes and everything else. Not to mention the parking, not to mention that there's, pretty skinny road going in and out, and so on and so forth. We think that Peggy's Cove is iconic. It certainly is. We think it's a jewel for Nova Scotia. It certainly is. But has Peggy's Cove become a victim of its own success? Also, I saw in the news last night and again this morning that Premier Tim Houston, who, of course, was on our show on Friday, has said that he's going to stick to provincial politics and says he will seek a third term as Premier of Nova Scotia when the time is right. I don't suspect we're going to see an election anytime soon. The Premier enjoying a supermajority in the House, so there would be no need for him to go to the electorate. There was some speculation that Premier Houston was planning to make the jump to federal politics when Mr. Poilievre was defeated in the last election and lost his own seat. There was the speculation was fueled by a comment from Premier Houston that said that he was in the process of taking some French lessons. But he put all that to rest yesterday, apparently, saying that he is to stick to the provincial game and will seek a third term as Premier of Nova Scotia. I'm interested in your thoughts if you think it's a good idea for Tim Houston to stick around for that third term. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Off the top of the hour, I said it is the open hour, and normal rules apply. You can talk about anything that you'd like to talk about, whatever comes across your mind, just like our first caller, Tim, is going to do. Tim, how are you?
Morning, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Very, very good. Well, a couple things. One, I didn't catch the entire show on Friday with Mr. Houston, and if he has any plans to increase or enhance the wages for CCAs, especially with their importance of their roles to not just the elderly but to the families. So I don't know if you had a chance to ask him, and if you did so, what was his response?
We did not. That question didn't come up in the calls, but I know that it certainly has been a topic that's been bantered around for some time here in Nova Scotia.
Right. And the second issue is I can't help but wonder how things are progressing with the municipality and reducing the 10% to something that is
right.
much more affordable for everyone in Halifax and the surrounding areas.
The budget process is a long process. It's going to take forever to go through. I think the next meeting is the 9th of December, I think is the next one. But at this point, we're still sitting at 10.5%.
Well, all right. Well, listen, we'll continue to monitor it. You have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk to you later on.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues after the break. Welcome back. This is the open hour. Lines are open. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. An opportunity to chat about whatever it is on your mind. I mentioned Peggy's Cove off the top of the hour here, and MSN.com's put it on a list that's very, let's say, not flattering to the site, saying that it's overrun with tourists and in my words, a victim of its own success, and I won't go to Peggy's Cove during the summer or the early fall. I'll go now, this time of the year when it's a little less busy. And to be quite honest, looking at it from a photograph perspective, I think you get some pretty cool shots with waves and fog, and if it's not totally fogged in, and there's a whole lot less people in it. Got an email from Jonathan who writes, "Hey Dan, like you, I also avoid Peggy's Cove for the vast majority of the year. During tourist season, tour buses are driving rapidly along a narrow and windy Peggy's Cove road to stay on schedule. High numbers of tourists pushing to get that perfect picture, and the overcrowded Sou'wester restaurant makes the entire experience unpleasant. I've since found other great places within a short drive of Halifax to explore." And that is from Jonathan. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255 to the phones. And we welcome Len to the show. Len, how are you?
Not too bad. It's not a bad day, really. It's not nice day out. It's not raining anything.
It's sure foggy this morning on the drive in.
I'd like to mention two things to you, and I'd like to know what your comment would be on it. I went to Giant Tiger today, and I bought a couple of items from them, like a package of onions and a cucumber and iceberg lettuce. And then I went to the superstore, and I said to the guy, "Why can I buy this cucumber and this package of onions, which is perfectly good, like they have the same one?" And I said, "At Giant Tiger, they're 97 cents. And you charge over $2.50 for a cucumber. Don't you buy just as many as they do?" So his comment was that, and that was terrible. I don't think it was right for him to say that, but he said their quality of groceries is not as good as ours. They don't last as long. They wear out within about a day or two. What do you think of that?
Oh, well, is it true? Have you shopped at Giant Tiger before?
No, it isn't true.
Exactly. So
the You see, Rob, what I did, I took the same packages I bought from them into the superstore to show to the guy. I came back and I showed him. I said, well, look at these. Do they look like they're inferior to the stuff that you're selling? I mean, it's not his fault, the guy I'm talking to anyway. He's only a person that works there. But I said, you told me that their stuff was not as good, but I'm showing you there right now. Does this look like it's not a good product, the same as yours? He says, I don't know what to tell you. The other thing I want to say, Rob, and I just want to quickly say, is that wouldn't it be nice that people that in the health system where they want people to be healthy and they want people to watch their weight and to exercise everything, wouldn't it be nice if the government, either the federal government or the provincial government, would not impose a GST or HST when you go and you want to join a gym and look after your health? I don't think that's right, that a tax should be implemented on people that want to, do things for their body. What do you think of that?
So you think a tax break or have it tax exempt so that we're not paying taxes at the gym? I don't think that's a bad idea at all, man.
No. Why should I pay if I'm trying to be healthy? Why does the government want me to be healthy, and yet they're imposing a tax on that particular item that I'm not getting anything? And all I'm getting is me going to the gym to use their equipment, and I'm paying tax on it. I don't think that's right.
I can't argue that point.
If I was the government, I would say right away, let's help these people that want to be healthy and not charge them tax on this kind of stuff. Anyway, that's my opinion for today.
Appreciate it, Len. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Kind of makes sense, right? That, if you're making the effort to try and be healthier, and people go to gyms for different reasons. But if you're making the effort to try and improve your health by going to a fitness facility, then there's an argument to be made that you are perhaps going to make life easier on the healthcare system, and therefore wouldn't need as much tax money. So should we be tax exempt when we get gym memberships? I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea at all. I think it might be an incentive. Now, granted, if you're $60 a month or whatever gym memberships are now, some places are cheaper, some places are more expensive. A 15% reduction in price isn't enough to put groceries in the fridge, that's for sure. But every little bit helps, right? I think Len might be onto something here. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. When it comes to grocery store pricing, it's a mystery, right? Grocery stores price things different ways. Some of those 97-cent deals that Len was talking about, the store will tell you that it's one of these loss leaders. It's a product that they're willing to take a bit of a hit on to just get you in the door, right? If you're like me and you shop bargains, because I have to, and most of us do these days, you'll see a product that's on sale at a discount to other places, and sometimes the stores will tell you that they're actually taking a loss on it just to get you inside the door, because then you're likely to buy other stuff, right? It's marketing. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
Doing great.
What's on your mind?
Your comments about Peggy's Cove. So I live in the next door village to Peggy's Cove,
it's got to be crazy during the summer there, isn't it?
Well, we got used to it. We're in actual fact on the road, and
right.
We just appreciate the view of the ocean and stuff like that.
I imagine.
So it's nice and quiet in the wintertime, anyway.
Right.
But if you drive out on the Prospect Road there, you'll notice that they've widened it in sort of Blind Bay area, Shad Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could do with that sort of roadworks coming out to, the full length of the Prospect Road, really, because it makes it so much safer for walking along the side of the road, because we have a lot of walkers in the village, and these buses going along, so you just got that extra bit of blacktop, with a white line.
Yeah.
For bicycles and walkers, it makes it so much better.
Little extra shoulder to walk on.
Yeah. So, well, I'd look forward to that, and I think it maybe in about 5 years' time it'll get there. But if they could speed that up, that would be great. And the other point is that there are a lot of people who walk, to Peggy's Cove, and they walk along the road. So it would be nice to put some gravel walkways, that are not, away from the road, through the wilderness area there, and then people would appreciate, their nature walks a lot better. So you'd be expanding, just looking at the lighthouse. So it was great to talk, and thanks very much.
Appreciate it, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I understand the balance, right? The reason why people like Peggy's Cove so much is that it's that small, picturesque village that many have a picture of what Nova Scotia should look like, and that's what they want to see. And putting wider roads and such into their, I understand the balance of trying to keep that a small, picturesque village, but the safety issue, the buses coming in and out of there by the bucketful, it seems, during the summer. It certainly is a condition for safety, at least for those that are living down there. But like I said, and I got another email while we were talking from Tom and said, "Hey, Dan, I kind of agree with the article. There are just so many Peggy Cove-like destinations in Nova Scotia that you don't have to, during the summer at least, deal with large crowds and a lack of parking and inferior or overpriced for what you get restaurant food." I don't know if it's overpriced. I know it certainly is the only place there, but and it's it has a certain clientele, I will say, of people that really don't have any other options. But it is restaurant food. Never mind the terrible road traffic conditions just to get to Peggy's Cove. Thanks, Dan. That comes from Tom. It's unfortunate that it has become, as I said earlier, a victim of its own success. I mean, Peggy's Cove is iconic, right? It's the most iconic lighthouse, I think, or image of Nova Scotia outside the Blue Nose. And people want to be part of that. And cruise companies and tourist companies are certainly capitalizing on it, and more power to them, right? That's what they're there for. But and to Tom's point about so many other places in Nova Scotia, I say it here at just about at the end of every show. We're so lucky to live where we do, but people hold on to those spots that they go to get their Nova Scotia quote unquote experience. They don't tell anybody about them because they don't want it to get overrun, right? I know there's books and there's guides and everything else, but when you find a spot, when you find a beach, when you find a rocky shoreline, you find a place that is secluded or there's very few people there, you're not going to run out and tell people about it, are you? Because then you're worried that you're going to give it away. It's like a trout fishing hole. Once you find one, you don't tell anybody that's there, so you can enjoy it yourself. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Open hour continues after the news. Hey, welcome back. This is the Open Hour, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Is it just me, or does it feel like the Prime Minister of our country is just done talking about Donald Trump? If you were just listening to the news, Mark Carney said he spoke with Trump on Tuesday, but negotiations on a new trade deal with the United States have not restarted. Carney telling reporters in Ottawa that he's going to travel to the U.S. next week for a World Cup event where he'll be participating alongside Trump, but he didn't want to over-dramatize things, saying that his conversation wasn't newsworthy. It just feels like Prime Minister Carney is just done dealing with this, asking that question asked every day, and right or wrong, that's the feeling I got from his comments. Remember, we had the "Who cares" comment a couple of days ago, and then he had to stand up in the House of Commons and say, "Oh, maybe that wasn't the best choice of words." And now he's like, "No, not newsworthy. We had a chat, but not newsworthy." Well, Prime Minister, whenever you have a conversation with the President of the United States, it's newsworthy. I hate to break that to you, but it just feels like he's done answering this question. And we still don't have, I shouldn't laugh, but we still don't have a trade deal, nor any indication that any kind of talks have restarted. It's just a bizarre situation, isn't it? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Ruth to the show. Ruth, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to discuss the couple of callers.
Sure.
I agree with the gentleman about the tax not being on memberships. The one thing the government did years ago, and I have been very upset about it because I had a diagnosis from an arthritis specialist that told me I needed to start working out constantly. That was the only way that I was going to keep my body healthier.
Okay.
And that's 25 years ago, and I've done it. I've always had to pay every time I went to a gym or a workout class. Now, the government put an initiation in for children so the parents could put their kids in hockey to make them healthier, and they offered a $500 tax credit.
Right.
And we were told years ago that adults were going to get them. And we never did get a tax credit. So even that option might be nice, because I know it's complicated for people to remove the GST from certain things.
Right.
But if the government stepped up and gave us a tax credit on our income tax, because we are trying to be healthier.
Ruth, you said the doctor said you needed to stay active in order to help alleviate some of the arthritis symptoms. Did it work? Are you feeling better?
Yes, it's working, but as I get older, it also gets worse.
All right.
But it did work for several years. It kept me very active. Very surprised that it reversed some of my herniated discs, and it does work. So, and the second option second thing I wanted to talk about was the Peggy's Cove Road and him talking about Peggy's Cove. I live on the Peggy's Cove Road, and very, very dangerous for even anybody to walk on it. Very dangerous. Now, they have a 3-phase project going on right now. We're in phase 1, and I have a 10-minute drive to get to the grocery store. We have sat in traffic for an hour.
Right.
For that 10-minute drive trying to get to.
I've heard that story.
The grocery store.
It's bizarre.
It's brutal.
Right.
The thing is, I don't think the traffic control people really knew what they were doing. Anyways, it's a little better, and I agree with paving it because they're making it wider.
Right.
My husband has also almost had a head-on collision because somebody was trying to get by one of those buses, and he had it on his camera. They actually made him go off the road. The person was in such a hurry, they went around one of the buses, took my husband off the road. He had camera footage of it. We went to the RCMP with it and the whole works, and they told us there's nothing they can do for people that do that to us because we can't find that driver that was driving that car. Even though we had the license plate number, they still said it was somebody from New Brunswick, and they couldn't track down anybody because it could not be that person that owned that vehicle possibly.
Jeez.
So I love that they're doing the project. It's just a pain to go through. I mean, they're going to Peggy's Cove with it. Now, I don't know how much they're going to do around the Peggy's Cove area. Be interesting to know. But I do love that they're doing it. So I do get stuck in traffic, but I know the end game is so much better for everybody and so much safer. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Great call, Ruth. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Bye-bye. You too.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We've got dash cam footage with license plates, but yet we can't do anything. Now, and I don't know the entire situation, and we'll take Ruth at her word, but I hear that a lot. That, it's unfortunate, we're upset, we're sorry that this happened to you, but, even though you have footage of somebody running you off the road or you have footage of somebody robbing your store blind, we just can't do anything about it. Now that roadway, that area is, as much as it's overcrowded and all of the ails that we've been talking about here during the last 40 minutes or so, is an economic driver for the province, right? People make Halifax a destination on those cruise ships just to go to that spot. And if the road is dangerous, what kind of impression does that make? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Another story that came across my desk yesterday that I'm interested in your thoughts on, and we are going to reach out to some of the groups that are associated with it, because if you were, and it's Dartmouth Cove, if you were listening to our show on Friday when the Premier was here, I asked him that question. I asked him about Peggy's Cove, wrong Cove, Dartmouth Cove, and the fact that the city had passed that bylaw and that had gone now to the provincial minister to have a review, as all of these bylaws do. And if you listen to the comments from the premier, at least my feeling on it was that he called the bylaw ambiguous, right? Do you remember that? And I was almost willing to bet that was the preamble for the minister responsible to kick that bylaw back to city council and say, sorry, try again. Well, that didn't happen yesterday. Now, the bylaw was approved, but there are some caveats attached to it. And they have to show that they have the actual jurisdiction to do that. That's been one of the debates all along. And Councillor Hensby was one of the councillors leading the charge against that, who is a firm believer that the city doesn't have any jurisdiction on the matter because it's a federal harbor and it's the federal government, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, that's responsible. Premier said, he didn't say it outright, but he sort of leaned towards that he wasn't even sure where the jurisdiction was. But I know that there's a lot of people over in the Dartmouth side of the harbor that have been advocating for this bylaw to stop the infilling. And I would suggest that yesterday's announcement that this has been approved with those caveats attached to it is a victory for them. I'm interested in what you think about that. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take another break. The open hour continues on the other side. You are listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back after the break. Welcome back. The Todd Veinotte Show on a Thursday as we roll through the open hour here. Lots of lines open if you want to join the conversation. Your chance to talk about whatever it is that is on your mind. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. A couple of topics of conversation that have come up thus far. Peggy's Cove, a victim of its own success. MSN.com putting it on a list of some of the top overrated tourist sites in the, I think it's in North America. Anyway, it is basically the complaint against it is that it's just too popular and that there are just too many people there. And as somebody or as listeners that have spent time at Peggy's Cove, I know many Nova Scotians, many people in HRM that just won't go there during the summer. Won't go there during the early fall when the cruise ship season's at its big swing because of that problem. And some of you are sending me some suggestions, and that's fantastic. And I've been to a couple of them, and some of them I have not been to, so I'm going to put them on my list to go and check out. But it's very interesting. I talked about this earlier, that when you have that spot, you know, that you drive to, like I've got a spot that I go to, it's not even on the ocean. It's on a freshwater lake. It's got a beautiful gravel beach. And there's hardly anybody ever there. And it's warm. Right? It's an inland lake, it's fresh water, and it's on a beach. It's a beautiful beach. And it's not sandy, it's gravel, but it's still a beach. And the lake is fairly shallow, so it warms up during the summer. Unlike a lot of the beaches on the Atlantic coast here. Will I tell anybody where it is? Absolutely not. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome a first-time caller to the show. Thanks for calling, John.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How you doing?
I'm well. What's on your mind, John?
Well, I listen to the show every day. It's my first time calling. Just a little bit about bike lanes.
Sure.
And the budget coming up. And, we can't afford those budgets. 10% increase in taxes. Now, I live in Oakfield, Nova Scotia, and I'm looking at a $400 a year increase to pay for bike lanes and other things. Just as an aside, I operate ATVs and snowmobiles, and I have to pay $56 a year for each machine. I have
John, I really hate to do this, but your phone's breaking up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick you on hold, and hopefully you can call us back and we'll get a better connection, okay? I'm going to stick you on hold, and I'm looking forward to having that conversation. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Welcome Donna to the show. Donna, how are you?
Oh, hi. I'm fine, thanks. And thanks for taking my call. I used to live when I was a teenager, long before you were even born, down in Hackett's Cove. And we used to spend a lot of time at Peggy's Cove. And one day, we knew about the dangers of the water and whatnot. One day, this is kind of a sad story. One day, we were down. In the morning, there was, I think, a woman and a baby. The big waves came in, but they were rescued by a couple of the local guys. And then later, they roped it off and were telling people to stay away. And I just want people to stay away. If the police or somebody tells you to stay away, stay away. Then we were up high. We knew to stay up high. And down there, all of a sudden, a big wave came in. There was a little boy and his father. I'll never forget it. And a girl. And they were clinging to the rocks. A couple of the locals went out and rescued the girl. They put a rope around one guy, and they went out and they got the girl. And the little boy and his father were still there. Unfortunately, another big wave came in and took the little boy and his father out to sea.
Yeah.
They drowned. And there's been other people have drowned there, but people don't listen because some days the waves can be really, really treacherous, and people should really, really, really pay attention. But another thing there, when I was a teenager, back in the day when the wages were 45 cents an hour, there was a little restaurant there. It was Clyde Crook's restaurant, but it was mostly just coffee, tea, sandwiches, and lobster chowder, and a little gift shop. And when the Americans came in, the tips, there was nothing to making, and this is way back then, $10 tip they'd leave or a $20 tip in American money. It was great. But I haven't been to Peggy's Cove that much since. Every time I look out, I think of that little boy and his father that died.
I hear you.
And another terrible thing is I'm just horrified at over in Hong Kong, all the people.
Oh, my goodness, right?
My God. It's so sad. And I feel so sad for all of them.
It's tough to
anyway,
watch. Donna, that lobster
for the day.
That lobster chowder must have been outstanding if you got a $10 tip back then.
It was. Well, of course, I was Gabby, as you know, and I would talk to all the tourists, tell them about how Peggy's Cove came about and where the other attractions to go to. I would spend time talking to them. I didn't just, and they liked that. I guess I've always been a Gabby little kid.
There you go.
Anyway,
thanks, Donna.
You have a good day, and thanks for taking my call. But everybody, please, Peggy's Cove can be dangerous. There's been other people have drowned there too. So the waves can come in, and people, like I said, they tell people to stay away, and some people do not listen. But pay attention because the waters there can be very treacherous.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay, have a good day.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Stay off the Black Rocks. I don't think it gets any more poignant than that. It's that simple. But Don is right, and it happens an awful lot. Let's see if we can connect back up with John. John, how are you?
Hi, how you doing now? Can you hear me all right?
Much better now. You said you run snowmobiles and ATVs.
Yes, and so, we have a user fee of registration once a year for each machine. It's $53. Also my trailer. So, for bicyclists, I'm not opposed to it, but how about charge them $53 a year registration and make them carry third-party liability? Because by law, I have to do that. Make it user-friendly, user pay. Just a thought, we're inundated with registrations for everything. So, that's my thought, Dan. I don't know if anybody's thought about it or looked at it, but that would be a way to help offset costs for bike lanes.
Appreciate it, John. Thanks for calling back.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. A $53 licensing fee for a bike, I think, might be prohibitive to a lot of people. Let's not forget, we often think about adults, but there's kids and stuff that ride their bikes and those kind of things. But we used to, right? Back in the day, we used to get a license. I remember it vividly because you used to have a bolt hole in it. You would either put it underneath your seat, or you, if you didn't have a seat, well, you had a seat, but not the right kind of seat, because if you didn't have a seat, that wouldn't be very much fun. It would bolt it. Mine was bolted, I think, to my back wheel. So I mean, it used to happen, and one step further, back in the day, at least where I grew up, they used to have an identification system. The city police would put a serial number on and etch it in the bottom of your bike. So if it was ever stolen, then they knew whose bike it was. And we used to have a bicycle rodeo every year. No, it wasn't roping and cattle rustling. It was police and volunteers putting kids, school-age children, through a bike course to teach them how to ride and the rules of the road. Right? We see an awful, and I hear an awful lot from you all about some of the issues that you have with cyclists. And I will say that motorists can also forget the rules at times. I say, with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek. But if we educate our kids younger, maybe it's something to look at. Maybe it becomes a safety thing, and then maybe the licensing fee for a bicycle is $10 rather than $53 or $5 or whatever it is. As for third-party insurance, boy, that's a tough way to it's enforcement. It always comes back to me to enforcement. Are we going to dedicate a police officer or a bylaw enforcement officer to go around checking and make sure that people are carrying their insurance cards with them when they're riding their bikes? I get the liability issue, I really do, and I'm not trying to make light of it. But it's an enforcement thing, right? There's a number of laws that are already on the books that we see not the best enforcement, I will say, on, and one of them is speeding. We can put the rules in, we can do what we want to do to try and make things safer and so on and so forth. But if we don't enforce it, it's really a waste of time. Getting ready to stop down for a break here for the news at the top of the hour. And, of course, this is the last Thursday. Can you believe it? We're all the way through November already. I was looking at this earlier today. I'm like, wow, it's the end of the month. It's Black Thursday, I guess, is so Black Friday is tomorrow. Do you know that I heard a stat yesterday on a newscast that I was watching, or I was listening to, that the Wednesday in the United States, the Wednesday before the Thanksgiving Day holiday, which is today, and happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating, is the biggest party day in the United States, even more than New Year's Eve. That's something to think about, isn't it? Anyway, tomorrow's Black Friday, and we're going to do a Black Friday free-for-all. So if you are going to be out or online doing your shopping and getting those Christmas gifts bought with these big sales, if they even exist anymore, which I don't think they do, we want to hear about it. Friday free-for-all is going to happen at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I hope that you can join the conversation. When we come back, it is the last Thursday of the month, and that means that it's time for us to welcome in our good friend and veterinarian. Dr. Jeff Goodall will be here for the next hour to answer your pet questions. I'm sure you have lots of them. We're getting into that time of year where our pets, our dogs, our birds, our dogs, our cats, our birds, maybe even our fish, get into things that they shouldn't because of all of the fun and frivolity that the holiday season brings with it. A conversation with our veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, will be here right after the news. All right, welcome back. It is the last Thursday of the month. Yep, we're there already, and that means it's time for us to welcome in our veterinarian to the show. Please, everybody, put your hands together and welcome Dr. Jeff Goodall to the show. Dr. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you doing?
I can't believe we're through November already.
yeah, I'm a little disappointed at how fast time's flying.
For sure. We're getting
No,
into that busy time of the year. Is there a busier time of the year for veterinarians in your clinic rather than is December busier than March, or is it all dependent on what's going on?
I would say years ago there was a situation where certain times of the year veterinarians got increasingly busy. Sunnyview had the risk of sounding a little bit like I'm patting ourselves on the back. We, with some pre-booking and other modifications that I started 26 odd years ago now, we in our practice are just nicely equally busy all the time. But it's funny you're bringing this up. And before I say anything, shout out to Todd, and of course I love your dog. And Vanessa, you're burning up the board there today on the music. But anyway, so thank you guys for all your work there. I thought I'd open up with something a little bit that people are not expecting. And we're trying something out at Sunnyview, and I know more clinics around us are. But what I'm talking about is the use of AI. So I'm going off on a tangent, but for veterinary medical records. Okay. And oddly enough, there's companies making AI bots to do diagnostics and give veterinarians even diagnoses. So I decided to let the listeners know that they can expect to see this more often. Last year, I was doing some reading on it recently because a new veterinarian at Sunnyview wants to use AI as a record-keeping system, and it has its bonuses, right? It's developed very quickly, like Chatbot has. I think I read the other day that it was like 4% usage a year ago, and now it's up to 20% in 1 year amongst veterinarians in the U.S. And what's happening is, and we're trying it out, so clients in our practice have been very accepting of it, but basically you walk in with your pet, the veterinary staff come in, and basically someone with their watch or their phone says, hey, we're going to record the session for record keeping, because it does streamline record keeping, and it does seem initially these programs, if they heard a barking dog or someone with an accent, the machine language would mess things up. Nowadays, it is reasonably increasingly accurate. Sunnyview tried a radiology or X-ray reading program a couple of years ago because, Sunnyview's no better or no worse than any other clinic when it comes to having staffing issues, having cost issues. Sadly, next to rent, your staff are your greatest expense, and getting good ones is a challenge. So we tried adopting the diagnostic software for X-rays because sometimes reading a chest X-ray or sometimes an abdominal X-ray can be an arduous process, and sending it off to a radiologist online. So here we go again, using electronics. Right. Can take even up to a day at sometimes. So I tried it out. I wasn't overly excited about it. And then, like I said, a recent veterinarian came in and asked if we would use AI transcription services. So I'm just saying that clients should be aware of it. I believe my understanding is that if clinics are using those chat transcription services, they need to post it. I just say to the client, hey, I'm recording this. Is that okay with you? Clients have the right, of course, to say no and to ask what's the data being used for. And the systems that we've tested so far, we have asked and received certifications that, and I can remember the certification is, certified SOC2. Remember that was SOC2 compliance, that basically the data isn't stored. Snippets are used to train the data if the veterinarian reviews the record and makes a change. But, these things are coming, and I don't know if I like part of it. These systems also diagnose by AI, which I have turned off on the systems that I have tried. But I have to say, Sunnyview, when we first started, we tried to get a person in the exam room with the veterinarian to both transcribe and to make sure that with two sets of ears, we were hearing the concerns of the client, observing the problems with our pets and patients. So we haven't at Sunnyview needed that, but a lot of clinics are having trouble staffing. So this is a way to, if you will, avoid the middleman so that the veterinarian doesn't have to type or write paper records while they're observing and examining your pet and listening to your needs. So it has an interesting effect there. I've been using one for the last few days, and last night was an overwhelming evening with a lot of cases, and it did save me some time at the end of the night just reviewing the, if you will, transcription and the version that AI then pulled out of that transcription of the conversation. It saves a lot of time, but people just need to be aware of it. I'm not saying, there's a controversial situation here, but if you're not comfortable, let your veterinarian know. But if 20% of veterinarians in America are using it, it's coming up here. So there you go. I'll love to take some calls now, but I just wanted to let people know that that's happening.
Sure, Dr. Jeff, it's interesting. Different segments of the population are using AI in different ways, and my experience is that if the person that's using it is very upfront with it, telling people like, look, this is what we're using it for, this is what it does, this is what it doesn't do, that people tend to be very accepting of it because it's something new and they get kind of keen on it. It's when you don't tell them that you're doing stuff that they start to get upset.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, we're putting up posters in the room because we're going to adopt it. We're going to use it because, again, even though I'm blessed with being busy at Sunnyview, we are having staffing issues for many reasons. And having someone in the room with me is going to go out the door soon. We just don't have the staff to do it and to be efficient and what have you. I think, it's important for clients to say, hey, what are you doing with my data? And have you asked the company to dump the data afterwards? Or, are you using your brain as opposed to AI's for making a diagnostic choice? It's going to be better documentation. So I think it's going to allow more natural communication with clients in the room and not impediments. Well, hey, hold on, stop that. I just need to catch up on my typing sort of thing. I think it will streamline things. I think we have to really be careful about diagnostic support and what have you. But it's interesting how these programs are running along pretty quickly.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you have a question for Dr. Jeff, here's a good opportunity for you to get it answered and get a bit of advice. Again, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. Jeff, let's go to the phones and welcome Morgan to the show. Morgan, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Your question for Dr. Jeff, please.
Yes, Dr. Jeff, I have a 2-year-old Boston Terrier, and over the summer, I noticed that she has started increasingly licking her paws from the nail bed all the way up to her elbow. I've met with my vet. We've ruled out infection, but I'm noticing that behavior increasing. We're really looking at potentially allergies or anxiety, but I just wanted to ask you if you thought there was any other potential causes that we may be overlooking.
Okay, great question. So how old's your puppy and what sex?
Female, and she's 2 years old.
Okay, so, that breed does tend to have an unusual level of allergic issues in their physiology, right? And the problem here is your vet is pretty much right on, in my opinion, anxiety and or allergies or both. And recently ran into a bit of a wall with a client where with good intent and some veterinary recommendation, they started flipping diets around, trying to find like a limited diet and, hoping that or expecting that the food would make the huge difference there. And the problem is I'm not going to say always, but many allergies now are a combination of environment is what we call it. So if your puppy is licking its feet, it could be anxiety. Yes, it could also be contact allergy and or complete environmental allergy. So my question to you is she licking her feet like while you're sleeping at night? Do you hear her sucking on her feet, or is it at certain times of the day? Or, if you work for a living, it's kind of hard to answer that. But what do you think? Is it all the time or?
No, so the thing I'm thinking, I've been comparing it almost to when you see a toddler sucking their thumb. She seems to do it after we've been gone for a period of time and come home. If we're just here, she doesn't seem to do it. And it seems to be when we leave. And I do sometimes see her do it like when she's getting ready to go to bed, almost like that self-soothing. Okay. But I don't want to rule out allergies completely. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything else I could be missing.
Right. So it does sound more anxietal than allergic. And sorry, I didn't finish my thought. If your veterinarian has diagnosed or at least suppositionally diagnosed your pet with allergies and or recommended like a unique protein is typically how we start. Just recognize that most of the diets out there that are limited protein, unfortunately, are not. And I'm not going to cast aspersions on the companies. They're doing their best. Most of the low allergy foods the ones that are effective are going to be veterinary only, and there is a protocol, a program that needs to be followed to make sure those diets work. Now, moving to your specific question, anxiety, I think you might want to chat with your vet. You don't just an online email. You don't have to, I don't think, have to incur another office visit. Ask for medications like Angstitane, which is really a supplement, to be honest. There's NutriCalm. There's Calming Care by Purina. You can put on the food, and that changes the, if you will, the biome or the biology of the gut, and that can work quite profoundly. We had a client last night swearing by it. But those products take about 6 to 8 weeks to have full effect in some cases. Sometimes you need a short run of an anti-anxietal medication. And so have a chat with them, because if you've chatted with them before, they should be open to, okay, here's a plan. And the veterinarian should be able to give you, hey, we'll try this natural supplement. And in the short run, use the medication, say Prozac as an example, but there are others. And that way you can get your puppy to stop licking her feet, then pull the medication back and try to see what happens with just the supplement holding them. And then I guess I should end on, keep in mind that Christmas is a stressful time of year, and our schedules change. Our dogs pick up on that, and cats. With people coming and going, stresses can increase exponentially. So if something's not working the way you want, a supplement doesn't seem to be doing the job, keep in mind it's also the environment, and you may want to reassess that in January after all the decorations come down and things slow down a bit. So I think you're right on. I think your vet's on the right track. I might approach, allergies are complicated, and they're not as simple as the internet makes it sound. Anxiety, while complicated, are probably going to be less expensive to manage in the long run, and more likely in this case. Give your puppy a little hug and a kiss between the eyes, and maybe even get a webcam to see what's going on during the day when you're at work. Don't overdo it, but while you're trying this product out or this protocol out, having a camera at the front door or in the main area where the dog frequents might also give you some comfort, knowing that the medication supplement combination is working.
Thanks for the call, Morgan. Appreciate it. Best of luck. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Our conversation with our veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, continues right after the break. All right, welcome back. Our hour with our veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, continues. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. Jeff, I got an email question, comes to us from Katie, and it reads, the newest kitty to join our adopted crew clearly has some Persian blood in him. He has a squishy face and massive eyes and extremely dense fur. Now, when we took him in, he needed to be shaved entirely because he was so matted and couldn't walk. Now, I try to brush him regularly. However, his fur is so thick I'm having a hard time preventing knots. The question is it okay to shave him regularly? I've read it's not the greatest for his skin, but the constant matting can't be great for his skin either. And then she says, thanks.
Yeah, so good question. And look, grooming a cat, so regular brushing is important, but the question, if I understood correctly, is clipping the cat, or for the matter for dogs, a bad thing to do or questionable? And I'd argue no. We have a Persian cat in our house, and he will not allow us to groom him, brush him, other than just sort of superficially. So once, twice a year, we bring him into the clinic and we clip him down. Sometimes we do what's called a lion cut, which is, basically leaves his head and his neck alone and the bottoms of his 4 feet and the tip of it, the length of his tail. He looks kind of odd, but he's comfortable because mats are uncomfortable. So if the question is simply, is it okay to clip a cat and how often? I think twice a year is just fine, because at least you're doing what you can within the confines of what the animal will allow. For that matter, don't forget, new kitten owners, brush your cat regularly, gently with a slicker brush, which are those little fine needle brushes. And then I'll say for dogs, especially in the summer, we see clients starting to shave their dogs to keep them cool. And, different dog breeds have different skin and different needs, but keep in mind that skin and hair on dogs is different than people. So hair coats on dogs will actually sometimes insulate them from heat. So people forget that insulation works both ways. And so sometimes and knowing that dogs can't sweat, sometimes when you clip the coat, the dog can actually get sunburned. You can injure the skin. So getting a professional to do it is a better idea because clippers can overheat. And some dogs never regrow their hair coat the same way. So in the summer, it might be better to just regular groom, remove the undercoat. For cat owners, again, regular grooming, if the cat will allow you to remove the undercoat, will prevent those hair mats and then allow air circulation around the hairs, which therefore reduces infection. Not relevant to the cat question, but bathing your dog can be an issue. You have to use low heat and really blow backwards on the hair. So it's best just to have a groomer do it. Maybe every 2 months have a bath of your dog, but recognize that clipping a dog who's going outside can have its own ramifications. And an email to your vet who knows your dog better than I do is a great idea. And coming back to the cat question, if you have to groom your cat and get it clipped down, it's going to be more comfortable. So do it if you have to.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Steve to the show. Steve, how are you?
Good. Thank you. I'd like to talk to Dr. Goodall.
Sure. Your question, please.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to have two little questions, but I'll start out with the one. I have a 3-year-old golden retriever, and he's a grazer, has been since the day he was born, which is unusual for a golden. His sister, who my son owns, as soon as they put the food down, just gobbles it up and away she goes. But in the last probably year, and I've discussed this with my vet, every once in a while he eats his food, at one sitting. And then next thing I see him, he gets down into the down dog, a very crouching position. And he'll be like that for 30 seconds or maybe a minute, and then he'll just lay down on the floor. You can tell it's almost like, I think it looks like bad indigestion, that he gobbled the food too fast. Now, I've talked to my vet about what it could be. We were thinking pancreatitis, but there's no other symptoms for that. I'm just wondering if there's something that I could give him as an additive. Like I've tried probiotics. I didn't seem to think that worked, but just wondering if you could give me any other things that maybe my vet might have missed. It's always good to get a second opinion.
Okay, so you mean to slow him? You mean you're looking for an opinion on how to slow him down, or what the symptoms are?
Yeah, no, I don't need him to eat any slower. I just want to know what the symptoms are that he goes into that down dog and looks distressed when he finishes eating. And somebody thought maybe at one. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, so I'm presuming you guys have discussed slow feeders and adding some mild amount of water to the food to soften the kibble a bit. If you can use a puzzle bowl or a toy that dispenses the kibble, yeah, these larger dogs, when they eat everything at once, even if they're not eating too fast, they can have indigestion due to that, just like we would after turkey dinner. And your veterinarian is exactly right. Pancreatitis would be on my list. And no, don't try to self-diagnose. I'm not saying you are, but you mentioned, you don't see any other symptoms. The problem with pancreatitis is it's usually a building problem. In other words, the dog gets an attack of pancreatitis multiple times from eating either the wrong food or in this case, maybe too much at once. And over time, the pancreas becomes, if you will, sensitized. And usually you don't know you have a pancreatic problem until it blows up. And so I think in this case, a puzzle bowl, a slow feeder, adding a little bit of water to the food, or going from twice a day feeding to 3 times a day feeding would be one way to lessen I don't know what exactly your dog is going through, but indigestion of any sort is probably better than adding in probiotics and other ideas, because a lot of probiotics out there are made to meet client demand, but not necessarily pet safety. There aren't, again, if you're using, a probiotic, we really tend to go only with, there's one by, I can see it, I think it's Iams in my memory, and then there's Purina's Fortiflora, which are made in a facility that meets stricter standards than, say, somebody on Amazon or that Dr. Jones guy out West's products. There's no oversight in a lot of these products. So I would argue less is more. Let the diet do its job. Feed your puppy or your dog 3 or even 4 times a day, or take that twice a day feeding and divide it in half and feed one for 15, 20 minutes, and then give him his second half. If twice a day feeding is the only way you can do it, then divide it down. But again, I come back to the treat dispensing toys, the puzzle feeders, a little bit of water to the kibble to lessen that pancreatic surge, if you will. The other thing that could be happening is a mobility issue in the stomach. Your dog's stomach is just having difficulty with the volume of food in there, and basically, again, slowing things down, less food at once. Another idea is feeding out of a muffin pan for people with cats that do that. Those muffin tins, you don't have to go to a specialty store, go to the dollar store and get a muffin tin and just put the kibbles in each different section to slow your cat or dog down. I think that answers your question. I hope it does.
Steve, I appreciate the call. Best of luck. Dr. Jeff, we're going to take a break. Dr. Jeff will be here after the news. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. Our conversation with the veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, continues. If you have a pet question, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. Jeff, let's go straight to the phones and welcome Greg to the show. Greg, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
I'm well, sir. What's on your mind?
Thank you for doing this. And Dr. Jeff, thank you for coming on. We were blessed to get a little kitty. She's 7 months old, and I'm wondering about cat grass. I bought cat grass at a local place. She loved it, and it faded. And I saw online, doctor, that there's these batons you can buy with cat grass and protein within them. I'd like to ask you, are they okay to feed my cat to get rid of the fur balls?
Okay, so cat grass is basically just wheatgrass, right? And I've read, I can't say for sure that it does make a difference with fur balls, but it certainly isn't going to hurt. The idea being that a little more fiber can reduce the frequency of hairballs. So in general, for the listening audience, I don't think cat grass is a risk. They're mostly wheat, barley, rye, oat, that kind of stuff.
Right.
For the listening audience, I'm just thinking beyond your question. There is some issue with dehydration in those kidney-affected cats. I'm just thinking here. But if for you in general, giving your cat a little bit of cat grass, or, having some on a, windowsill for the cat to go up there in the sunshine and enjoy his or her day, that's not a bad idea at all. Will it help with fur balls? I don't think it will in every case. I've not really been asked that before, so I haven't really thought about it. When you're talking about vomiting hairballs, have you had issues with that with a previous cat? Is that where we're going?
No, we've had several cats over the years. And you know how cats will vomit up a hairball. This happened only once since we had this little precious little thing. And but do you know what I mean, Doctor, by these little batons that they say? I just saw it online, and I'm wondering if that's all bogus or is it? They say it's
okay. To be straight, no, I don't know about what you're referring to at all when it comes to a baton. I'm just thinking of those trays you can buy online that have, the wheat, oat, whatever grass in them, and you can, cultivate them on your windowsill. So no, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but in general, just for clients who, want to try that for vomiting hairballs in your cat, recognize that there are simpler things if you want. Petroleum jelly-based products like Veinotte, I think, is one of them, and a few others out there that basically can help for hairballs in general. I think the cat grass products are more there for the fun of the cat and environmental enrichment, which is important. Let's not dismiss the importance of environmental enrichment for your cat's health. Hope that answered that.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Best of luck, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Got an email question here, Dr. Jeff. It reads, I have 2 rescues from Mexico. One of them, Archie, my basset hound, apparently has a sleep startle. He was found on the streets of Mexico with wounds in his back and his ribs sticking out. According to a vet, he was just days away from death. Now, anyway, he says that he's my buddy and we have a very strong bond, but 2 years later, when anyone walks by him when he's sleeping, he jumps up barking, wild-eyed, nostrils flaring, and it takes me a few minutes to talk him down. He doesn't seem to be able to enter a deep sleep unless he's snuggling with me. Is there anything I can do to help him recover? And I don't want to use drugs.
Wow, that's a hard one. I haven't heard the term sleep startle since I was in school. So now we're talking data from my brain of 35 odd years ago. I guess it's very difficult for me to answer that without understanding more about what the dog is doing. But generally, for the listening audience, sleep startle disorders, in my memory, are where we have a dog who, when woken up from a sleep, can actually lunge at the owner or somebody walking by. Maybe even, I think the case I'm remembering might have been a bite. I can't remember off the top of my head. So it's basically a sleep anxiety issue. However, I have to go on a different path, and I know we're coming up to the quarter hour here. That could actually be a dog who's been exposed to the distemper virus. So you might need to have a conversation with your vet about that possibility. We have 2 dogs from Mexico that survived distemper and have the neurologic tick with the long-term effect of that disease. So please just vaccinate your dog. I know there's a whole controversy about vaccines out there, but these dogs that suffer from the distemper virus that survive, because most don't, they do have these startle effects. And that's where I'm wondering what we're seeing here. Is it the distemper or is it behavioral? So coming back to this guy's specific question, you could try calming care by Purina. That's available at your vet. You could try Nutricom. You could try, it's escaping me. I can see it in my mind's eye. Anyway, it's worth an email to your vet to get some guidance on not only the products, but the plan to use them. And if the dog is getting aggressive in its wake up, in other words, it's really getting to be a concern, leashing the dog to like a bed frame or something like that, that the dog won't get up on the bed and be woken up that way. So in the middle of the night, you're not getting attacked. I'm beginning to remember this case now. The dog actually would nip at the client through the bedclothes or the sheets. Leashing the dog, keeping it on the floor, maybe considering a short run of Prozac like the previous caller, a little bit of something like that, or clomipramine or clonidine, short run while the naturopathic effect takes hold might be an option here, because the concern I would be having is, we want our dogs to be happy. We want to have a great relationship with them. If it takes a little bit of a short run of medication, that would be the way to go. Okay, having said that, keep in mind that there is an online behaviorist out of Ontario. The behavior specialty is a very rare specialty, but you could set up a visit with her. Her name is Colleen. I can't remember her last name. She's out of Ontario, out of Toronto somewhere. You can do an online questionnaire with you and your vet involved, send it off. It's about $500, but I've had some very interesting replies from her. She's very effective, very kind, very compassionate, because this sounds like a problem that could get out of control fast, and our dependence on supplements and medications might only be a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. So that's why it's a little more complicated question than just I could answer easily. But I hope that gets you started anyway. And there you go.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take a break. Dr. Jeff will be back on the other side. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. Back in a few minutes. All right, welcome back. Todd Veinotte Show continues. It is our hour with the veterinarian. Dr. Jeff Goodall is in the house from Sunnyview Animal Clinic out there in Bedford, and he's here to answer your questions. If you have a question about your pets, your dog, your cat, your bird, Dr. Jeff will do his very best to answer those questions. Let's go back to the phones, Dr. Jeff, and we will welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dr. Jeff. I got a cat, and all summer he was skinny. He's huge. He's part Maine Coon. And, I mean, when I make his breakfast, he's standing on his hind legs watching me. So my counter's 36 inches, 37, I think. I mean, that's how big he is. But he was skinny all summer. And now, like, his coat is thicker, but I just don't know. He's put on a lot of weight. Like, he's not skinny anymore. Like, he's plump, I would say. And I just don't know if that's the breed. That's what's, sort of coming up. He's getting ready for winter because he's an outside cat. He's outside right now. but it's only 11 degrees. But yeah, I just don't know what his, like, I adopted him.
Okay, but just to get through, what is your question, I guess, that he's putting on weight and why?
Is it normal?
Oh, I can't answer that. I'm not trying to be evasive. Is it normal for a cat to put on weight when he's been thin for a while? I guess the short answer is it could happen.
Like, I haven't changed his diet.
Pardon me?
I haven't changed his diet at all. Like, he eats the same
Okay,
stuff.
but, I'm wondering if your cat, because I don't recommend letting cats outdoors, as every listener would know, but your cat may be getting food from another source outside. And look, there's a lot of good intention people in the neighborhood will put food out for these stray cats. They think they're stray and feed them. And so your cat may be just getting food from alternate sources. And the big thing is, just for the listening audience, it's called WASAVA, the World Small Animal Veterinary Association, has a website. Again, WASAVA, WASVA, and it has a body condition score chart for cats and dogs on there. Just for the listening audience, generally, to know how to judge your cat or dog's weight without actually running into the clinic and putting it on a scale. So to answer your question, yes, it's completely possible it could happen. It doesn't mean there's a medical condition at all. There's the answer to your question.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Another email question, Dr. Jeff. It says, hello, Dan. I'm wondering if you can ask the vet about the Lyme disease that my 10-year-old beagle contracted. Has had Lyme disease for got it about a year and a half ago. Took a round of antibiotics, which really seemed to help straighten them out, but every 6 weeks he has what seems to be a really bad arthritis flare-up where he can barely walk, limps, needs help to go outside, use the bathroom, etc. Is this normal for Lyme to start flaring up every 6 weeks or so? We do take them to the vet once a month for an injection. I believe it's called Libera. He seems to go from normal to a flare-up within days. Each flare-up usually seems to last about a week.
Well, that's a really good question. Lyme disease is really problematic. Just a reminder to clients or listeners, you really tick prevention. I don't know if I like some of the products that are out there, but you just have to do it. You just have to prevent. The Atlantic spray on a bandana could help, and then a topical or oral tick preventative product, not just for the dog, but for the family. The Advantix product can be put on your dog, and ticks really don't even want to get on your dog, which means your family's exposure to ticks accidentally brought in on your dog is lessened. But this person's specific question, is it normal? No, I don't think so. I wonder if your Librela is the monoclonal antibody injection they're referring to. And for the listening audience, it is a really interesting medication. And there's a similar version, I can't think of it suddenly off the top, Silencia for cats. That is a monoclonal antibody that reduces the pain reception, if you will, by the nerves and can help an animal that is in chronic pain. The listener may want to consider gabapentin or tramadol for pain management as well, as also a reassessment. Maybe vaccinating the dog for Lyme disease might help lessen the flares if it's ascertained that the dog is not suffering from, say, just generalized osteoarthritis due to either, age or past history of running, like my background is sled dogs, and those dogs get premature arthritis from running hard. And there is some evidence. Most people think of vaccines as being preventative, and they are. In Lyme disease, it appears the vaccine can be part of the treatment protocol. And if you vaccinate your dog twice back-to-back to start, about 2 weeks apart, and then annually, you can reduce the symptoms associated with Lyme disease and lessen flare-ups. So that might be something to discuss with your veterinarian. Having said that, you may want to have what's called a C6 antibody test or an OSP, I think it's OSP-F antibody test to see if there's levels of antibodies to either the C6 protein or the OSP protein. If those are higher than they should be, then that might convince your veterinarian yourself that this is due to Lyme flare-ups. These are expensive tests, though. To be honest, they're $150 a piece, I think. So it might be worth an email to start. You don't always have to run to your veterinarian, though you're going in monthly for the injections. An email to start to say, hey, I'd like a reassessment of the situation. I don't think X-rays are all that useful for assessment of osteoarthritis and things like that. I think it's quality of life for our puppy dogs and our cats, for that matter. And so keep in mind that, again, in addition to the Librela, you might want to consider low-dose non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs such as meloxicam, Rumicam, those kind of drugs. You may want to consider Galliprant and another one that starts with R. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I think it's great you did the antibiotics at the start, and sometimes these dogs get reinfected. They get bitten, and the Lyme bacteria reactivate, and that's where that C6, and OSP, I want to say OSP-E or F, I can't remember, OSP-F tests are useful. If those elevations are up, then your dog's been rebitten, and then I come back to what I started with, prevention of the ticks in the first place. Because reinfections with Lyme disease can result in chronic flares, and I'm wondering if that's what's happening here. So it's worth an exchange with your veterinarian by email to start, looking for a positive antibody titer for Borrelia-related issues. That Borrelia is the bacteria, and go from there. And just a reminder, everybody, prevent ticks as best you can. Check your cells for ticks regularly. And let's not forget that it's not just Lyme disease out there now, right? Ticks are carrying anaplasmosis, babesiosis, ehrlichiosis, and a new one, and I can't remember the fancy name for it, but the Rocky Mounted Spotted Tick is carrying a bacterium that makes you allergic to red meat. And you have so in other words, people get an allergic reaction to eating steak or hamburger. So you want to be really careful about preventing ticks in the first place. There you go.
Dr. Jeff, we're out of time. Flies by here our hour. I appreciate you spending some time with us. And if I don't talk to you before the end of the year, have a fantastic holiday season.
Yeah, Vanessa and I have already booked a time for next month. I can't remember the date exactly. But hey, Merry Christmas, everybody, if I don't get back on the air. And thank you for the opportunity. I learned so much from these sessions. And I'm going to look up startle disease now when I get freed up here from that other question. I learn every time with every interaction. So thank you very much to everybody who's listening.
Thanks, Dr. Jeff. That is Dr. Jeff Goodall from the Sunnyview Animal Hospital Clinic in Bedford. Who's here with us once a month, usually the last Thursdays. That's going to do it for this edition of the program. Don't forget Friday Free for All tomorrow. Thanks to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass. Get out there, folks, and enjoy what we have. We're so lucky to live where we are, even if it is busy at Peggy's Cove. Until tomorrow, everybody, be well, and remember, be kind to one another.